Welcome to FC Barcelona Central. I am your host Pedro, and by now Joan Garcia should have accepted the offer from Barcelona, making him our next goalkeeper. As the details of all this contract emerge in the next few days, today I want to discuss the top wingers on Barcelona's radar. Deco made it very clear that he won't be making a ton of signings, making every potential move crucial. So we're looking at for a versatile attacker, someone who can ignite the left flank and provide some cover up on top. Deco's message has been consistent this past few weeks. He says we don't need to bring many players. This means that every addition must be impactful. We need a winger who can provide that missing spark, offer Rafinha, Lewandowski, and Lamine Yamal some rest with the intention of hopefully moving Rafinha into a more central attacking mid role. So let's break down the top names here. And I'll give you from best to worst. Or however, I guess the more popular to less popular. So leading the charge is Luis Diaz from Liverpool. According to Mundo Deportivo, Diaz is fully aware of Deco's interest of bringing him to Barcelona, and he also wants to be a Blaugrana. He's already fighting to force his exit out of Liverpool, where he's under contract until 2027. So, would the Colombia be a genuine fit into Barcelona under Hansi Flick's proposal? Well, the only problem is his release clause, which is about more or less about 80 million euros. But I'll give you a few reasons why he's a good match. He's a natural dribbler and a one-on-one king, favored highly by Deco, who believe Barca needs more of this type of profile, given our current over-reliance in Rafinha and Lamine Yamal on their individual brilliance. Him being very versatile and capable of playing across all lines, left winger, right winger, and even center forward. This season, he played 31 games as a left winger, 14 games as a center forward, and 2 games in the right wing. Even though he delivered his best game, his best performance of the season as a center forward, scoring a hat trick in Liverpool's 4-0 trashing Bayer Leverkusen. At 28, he brings a competitive maturity and international experience. He's been the undisputed starting in the Premier League champions Liverpool with 17 goals and 8 assists last season. This has been also his most prolific season in England since arriving from Porto in 2022 for reportedly 54 million euros. Back then, I really liked him in Porto. I remember the first time I saw him, and it was in a Champions League in Porto. I think it's Porto against Barcelona. I was like, yo, this guy can dribble. He can go one-on-one and actually beat a lot of his opponents. So at Liverpool, he shows an immense effort in high pressing situations, which is an aspect that has been significant as part of our reinforcement in our attack. Somebody that can press high. Flick really likes this idea of pressing high and getting the ball as soon as we lose the ball. And there's also an emotional connection here confirmed by his father, saying that his son will love to sign for Barcelona. I think this is a good signing, but I don't know what the money situation is. He might be the most expensive release clause that we're looking at this summer, and I don't know if we're in a situation to spend that much money. I don't know. We'll see. I do want to talk about the next up. The next up is Marcus Rashford. Deco isn't shying away from the fact that Barcelona's interest in a move from the English international this summer. Marcus Rashford, at 27 years old, faced an uncertain future in Old Trafford. Like other Manchester United loanees, he's likely to be sold to raise funds and cut the wages for this summer for their team. Rashford quickly fell out of rotation after Ruben Amorim became United's head coach. Famous is being criticized publicly by his work rate and application of training, with Amorim even suggesting that he'll play the goalkeeping coach over him. Imagine how much they were beefing. In January, Rashford joined Aston Villa on a loan and even posted a thank you message to in Aston Villa social media last week, making it clear that his time there was over. While he did show flashes of his talent, scoring 4 goals and providing 5 assists in 17 appearances, Aston Villa will not be taking up their option to sign him permanently for 40 million, especially after missing out of the Champions League for 2 consecutive seasons. This effectively means the return to Manchester United is pretty unlikely, and a permanent exit is pretty much expected. It is widely understood that Rashford dreams to be a Barcelona player if Barcelona can navigate the stricter financial controls. With Hansi Flick in charge, it seems to be that he could make Rashford dream a reality. Though it is expected to, he's expected to take a big pay cut. His wages alone, his salary, it's very expensive. So he will have to take a pay cut to come to Barcelona. Um, with Aston Villa staying being concluded, the links to Barcelona has definitely gained momentum, and there's a strong possibility that this could happen this summer. Now, Manchester United is looking to sell him, and Rashford will need to play some Jedi mind tricks here and reject any offers from any other clubs, so they can push Manchester United's hand into loaning him to Barcelona. So long story short, here is Manchester United wants to sell him for at least 40 million, and Barcelona is like, no, let's do a loan. Manchester United do want to do a loan, but with a buy option at the end, and Barcelona does not want to do that. Let's see. I do want to take this moment now to talk about Bayern Munich. And why Bayern Munich? Because Hansi Flick was their coach from the 2019 season to 2021. And it appears that Kingsley Coman seems to have his day number at Bayern Munich. Although the 28-year-old winger has a contract until 2027, he has expressed a desire to leave the club. And Bayern, apparently they're not going to block his departure. His release clause should be about 20 million euros, more or less. And after a decade at Bayern Munich, where he won literally everything, including the winning, the winning, scoring the winning goal for the 2020 Champions League final against PSG, the Frenchman international is determined to try his luck somewhere else in a different team to regain form. In the 2024-2025 season, he scored 7 goals and provided 4 assists in 41 matches, but he only started 5 of those matches. Knowing that he has become less important to the new coach Vincent Kompany's plans, Koeman prioritizes changing scenery, and Barcelona could be a great destination for him, especially with Hansi Flick as the coach. However, there is a small catch here. While the Frenchman is on a radar last summer, the club definitely has other names, which, like we talked about, we prioritize Luis Diaz, which his release clause is like 70, 80 millions. And Bayer will the release clause for Coman, I think is 40 million, like I mentioned, 30 to 40 millions here. But now the key difference is with these two potential signings, this fundamentally comes down to salary. While Luis Diaz received one of the modest salaries in Liverpool, around 3.5 million annually, Coman currently earns 17 million euros annually. Imagine making 17 million euros a year. Anyways, this big difference, given how Luis Diaz fits a little more, it's kind of like a clear tips of balance, and he goes more in the Colombian, I guess. But there is another name in the Bayern Munich team that we're looking at, and it's Leroy Sané. The German winger, whose contract ends in 2025, still hasn't renewed with Barca. And there's growing doubts on his extension. His arrival in Bayern in 2020 from Manchester City for 50 million euros, his performance hasn't been consistent. While he's showing an immense talent and explosiveness, his inconsistency and some injuries has prevented him from becoming an untouchable piece of the club. With Bayern Munich securing young talents like Musiala and Davies, Sané's situation is kind of being left in the air. And this is where Barca comes in. Barcelona are high alert for this signing. I know Hansi Flick coached him for 1 year. In reports say that he believes that Sané could be a key piece on his project. He likes his speed, his dribbling, and his ability to play on both wings that make him an ideal profile to our attack. Barcelona is definitely keeping a close eye on this situation, and they know that if Bayern doesn't reach a renewal agreement, we could secure him maybe for more accessible price this summer, or maybe wait for him into the summer and we can get it for free. That would be pretty neat. Just free agent signing. That's a way to go. With the departure of Ansu Fati, Barcelona definitely needs to bring another winger experience with the ability to make a difference in important matches. And this leaves two case scenarios for Sané. He either renews with Bayern or looks to meet another other contract or no departure this summer. Signing Leroy Sané by Barca will depend on two key factors. So the club economic situation, as Barca still has some salary restriction depending on his arrival, and obviously make sure that his negotiation is on the favorable conditions. And also, the other thing is like competition from other clubs, especially like teams like in the Premier League that see Sané and they're keeping an eye, really close eyes on this situation. They can pretty much, and they probably will offer him more lucrative contracts. So for now, one thing is sure: Sané hasn't had a definite decision on his future, and Barca is keeping a close eye here. I guess his fleet considered him to be a priority and Bayern doesn't accept his renewal, the German winger could become a big surprise for us this summer. Now, there are some other names circulating here, and I think it's important that we go ahead and address this. First, let's talk about Rafael Leao. The 25-year-old AC Milan star has consistently been linked as a potential target. He has definitely been admired by our club president, and even though Luis Diaz seems to be a primary target, Leao's name continues to pop up. In fact, reports earlier this week indicated a super agent even brought up the AC Milan star name during a meeting with Barca officials. Well, remember, Jorge Mendes is Ansu Fati's agent and Lamine Yamal's agent. However, according to the latest update from Gazzetta Sport, Leao is now to be considered untouchable by AC Milan. Following an appointment of the new manager Massimiliano Allegri, Leao didn't have a great season, but his name was always linked to exits this summer. But now with the new signing of this coach, in Allegri's arrival, Allegri believes that this winger is one of the few players in Serie A capable of making a big difference, and want him to be AC Milan's main reference point. The Rossoneri leadership supports this plan, trusting Allegri can bring up Leao consistency. And, with other names being associated with Barcelona, I do want to say that he has a contract until 2028. And now, because he's an untouchable, he has a huge release clause that will make his move unlikely. Yet another name that's coming out of Serie A is Ademola Lookman. According to TV3, Hansi Flick reportedly liked this player. The Atalanta star has a strong financial feasible option to boost our winger position. Lookman has an impressive season of 20 goals and 7 assists, and he has been a consistent name in Barca since March. While his price tag is still a little uncertain, reports range that is 30 million, 60 millions, more or less around there. The fact is that his contract is until 2026. That puts Barcelona in a favorable position for negotiation. Although no official talks have begun, a source confirms that the player is highly regarded within the club. Our next steps, of course, is depending on our financial situation, especially after signing on Joan Garcia, and whether we can secure the funds. However, their potential move for Lookman seems to be a little complicated, has his growing interest from other clubs in Europe, like Atletico Madrid, Liverpool, Manchester United, Chelsea. Listen, all Europe is behind this kid. They definitely have a key, keeping an eye on him because he's very young. A 25-year-old Nigerian who just kind of popped up in the scene. They're definitely gonna take him. But in addition to Lookman, Barcelona is still considering other attacking option. Previously talked about Luis Diaz and Marcus Rashford, but let's pivot to the left back position, where a familiar face has been linked for a return, and this is Alejandro Grimaldo. Mundo Deportivo claims that the Bayer Leverkusen left back is keen on a return to his homeland, to Spain, with heavyweights like Barcelona, Real Madrid, and Atletico Madrid all being interested on his service. Grimaldo should have been handing a boost because he has a surprisingly cheap release clause, something between 18 to 20 million euros. Now, in giving his market evaluation on 40 million, he's definitely looking like a steal. But Barca is currently prioritizing a left wing and a goalkeeper in this transfer market. But they're not ruling out a left back if an opportunity comes up like this one. Having grown up in La Masia, Barca will have an edge if they were to be a pursuit for Grimaldo. However, there's a caveat here. The 29-year-old he will have to accept a bench role, given how Hansi Flick said that Alejandro Balde would be his first choice at left back, and plus Gerard Martin has shown his top potential during Balde's injuries. And if Barca is ready to integrate, Barca is also ready to integrate Jofre Torres, which he has been another player looking to come up from La Masia and get some minutes. This suggests that Barca is already well covered at left back, and Grimaldo might not have the minutes that he wants. So this is where Real Madrid comes in and wants to might take advantage of this situation. Also, given that the current head coach Xabi Alonso was Grimaldi's coach in Leverkusen. It was also under Alonso's guidance that Grimaldo truly transformed into a world-class wing left back, playing with a pivotal role in Leverkusen's historic season. We'll see what happened with him. There's another team. I think Atletico Madrid is also in the hunt for him. They also want to strengthen their left back spot this summer. So culés, there's a lot of transfer talk heating up. Rafael Leao seems to be off the table. Koeman seems to be available, but with a very high salary. Sané could be a major opportunity if we get him for free. Rashford could also be our best loan opportunity if that were to be the case. And Luis Diaz seems to be the best fit, but also very high release clause. Which winger do you think FC Barcelona should sign? Please let me know in the comments below. I do want to know what are your biggest takeaway with all these updates. Please like, subscribe, and comment. My name is Pedro. I also go by Dro, and you can find me on Instagram under Orrutio. Until next time, and Visca Barça.